हेलो।
Hello.
हेलो।
Hello.
Hey, everybody. Oh, hold on one second. Um, we can go and get started. Too many things on my mind at the moment. Um, okay, yeah. First off, I'd like to thank Helia for doing a lot of edits on the document recently. I saw the comments you added and all the tables and stuff. Um, I went through and was trying to review your changes and realized I had screwed something up in the document, which I do not know why I hadn't seen before. Some of the comments that you had made were like, some rewordings and some typos and things like that. And I kept looking at them like, I thought we fixed these. I thought we fixed that. And so I let and look back. And I guess when I copied that text into the document, I don't know if there was some version control stuff going hooey, or I just was really stupid and grabbed the wrong document. Um, but I grabbed old text and some older tables too. So I'm going through and fixing that right now. And hopefully I can get that done this week. I'm about halfway through it right now. I'm up to the link control registers, I think. Oh, I got through the all of the sideband stuff, and I'm getting link control registers, and I am trying very hard not to stomp on the changes that you made. I'm definitely keeping all of the table stuff you did, all the table links and stuff like that. Trying to follow all of your table stuff, though you did rename a couple of things like from configuration to config stat and things like that. And so I'm trying to respect all those little changes as well. But unfortunately, Google Docs uh, change control, and highlighting is very problematic. So there's no guarantee I don't stomp on something, I think. So once I'm done with that, I'll let you know. And if you want to go ahead and skim that and make sure I didn't break any of the rewording that you did. I
Sounds
also
good.
saw that you
Yep. Yeah, sounds good. Sorry.
I
Sorry, go
also
ahead.
saw you added you added a figure, and I really appreciate that. Um, that's also something that I need to do as well, because I think I need to change at least one or two of the figures in the intro, I think. Um, Jeff, you don't happen to know what David used to make those figures, do you?
No, but I can find out.
Yeah, can you ask? I mean, I was thinking about just remaking them, but it might be better if I started from whatever he did. That might save a
Yeah.
couple of minutes.
Okay.
And I can help too, Brian. I saw the comment that which figures you want to add. I think you want to add sideband to the main band.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just
think
want to
they're
add more, I want to mention sideband where it makes sense to mention sideband in the introduction because it's kind of just tacked on now. And so I'd like to make sure it's a little more integrated. It doesn't need to be the focus, especially in the beginning of the document, because I think most people are coming to this document looking for the main band stuff anyway. But we do need to like let them know there is, there's a couple extra wires there, and there's a whole chunk of the document for that. So that needs to
you
be
can
sorted.
redo them as well if you I I can work on it if
Okay.
you are in a
Okay.
crunch
Well,
time. Yeah.
let's see what David says. If he already has the originals, then we'll just start from there. If it doesn't, then it's probably a it's probably a 15-minute exercise just to recreate the document, recreate the figure.
Agree. Yeah.
Because they're all pretty simple.
One main thing, one was config and stat, and I think we talked about it. That particular register has configuration bits, and we also, at least the firmware level, pulls on some information. So they also have status functionality as well. And just calling it config, at least I felt, is not quite clear and could be confusing. So I started calling it config and stat because it had both of those functionality.
Yeah, I didn't really have a strong opinion either way on it. So if that clarifies things, then by all means, let's do that.
But one big one was the address width. At one place I saw it's 19-bit and another place 24-bit. I think that's
Yeah, that's
something that
another thing that was fixed in the fall in the that was a thing that was fixed and for some reason didn't make it into that version. So yeah. So
yeah, I think
I'll try and I'll try and synchronize that.
okay, yeah, thank you. And I think besides that, we are very close. And I know you said maybe by the end of the May you may have less time, so I want to make sure
Yeah,
that
so
we
I'm going on a 2+ week vacation starting June 4th. So yeah, obviously I won't be coming to meetings and stuff after that. So for for a couple of weeks. So I'd like to get this document to the point where we are comfortable with it, and then we can have reviews and stuff while while I'm gone. Someone else can pick up having other discussions.
yeah, let's do that. Maybe next week we can review it in the Friday meeting and then take it from there.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'll have a good amount of time early next week too. So I'll probably spend probably a full day or so on this and try and reread the whole document and make sure it all makes sense. There are still a bunch of fix-me's. Some of them I just added actually a couple of them because I'm rearranging some things, and the new text adds a couple of sections and stuff. So I need to go add some links to things that are referred to and stuff. But David's old ones are all ones where it's like, I don't know. I think it's optional to fix them or just delete the fix me's. We shouldn't have any fix me's in the final document. And I'm still flabbergasted that we missed that when we released the other ones. I mean, I understand, David ran out of time or whatever, but Bobby should have deleted them or something. But we do need to make some decisions on those. Some of them are diagrams. Some of them are like, so the ones that stood out where there was a state transition diagram. And it's like, I really need to understand that to draw that diagram. And I'm not sure that I really thought about it that much. So I need to, when I'm reading through, I guess I'll make a decision about whether I'm comfortable or not doing that. And we can either, or somebody else can do it, or I can just delete the fix me, and people can infer that in their theater of the mind for their current their state transition diagram. And then the other one was the error model. And again, well, I understand the math a bit on, ECC and stuff like that. It's not that hard. I'm not sure what we need to know, what we need to document in terms, because we specify the error rate. So I'm not sure what David was referring to about the error model. And I know, being familiar with other similar specifications, they do go into more detail on these things, but I'm not clear exactly what is appropriate for us to document about that um, that error code, that secdead code, or anything like that. So if anybody has any comments there, if they've authored other documents that give a lot more information about the error model outside of the expected error rate, and what we're doing to do the correction, then by all means, please add a comment or some text.
Brian, if you can send me those two and then any other items you want me to go look into with David, and I'll try to get some feedback on that for
Okay.
you.
Okay. Will do.
Okay.
And I just sent you also, I think you just responded. Yeah, I think I sent you the request for some other docs too.
Yeah.
Sorry. Those feedback that was in the previously, there was feedback that was provided in the control path. Has this been transferred over to the TTL version 2? Because I still see the same thing.
You see the same, sorry, say again? You say which version are you seeing?
Okay, so basically in last week call, we said that the control path document will be, information will be transferred to the TTL version 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because I still see, because I provided some feedback about the table mismatch, and I still see the tables mismatch in the TTL version 2.
Yeah, I'm going through the document right now, and I realized that's what I was saying at the beginning of the meeting. I realized that the version 2 has an older version of the document and doesn't have all the stuff in. So I'm still copying
Oh,
text into it.
I see. Okay.
So
So means
hopefully by next meeting, all of those little things will be fixed.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the other thing I've started doing, and in reference to what Jeff was saying, what we were talking about with Jeff as well, in terms of getting sources, is I've started reorganizing all of the bus protocol variants and profiles. And so anyway, I did it. I'll tie it with Jeff on those, but I think that the goal here was to try and synchronize them where they're all using the same document methodology that Healy and I are doing on the current version of the new version of the TLL spec. And all the figures, all of the headings, all of the text all aligns between both of those documents and the spec itself. So hopefully, again, I'll have time to do that before I turn into a pumpkin. That's a smaller amount of effort though, because I don't think I'm really editing anything. I'm just really just changing styles and stuff like that.
Let me know where I can help.
Okay. I like I said, I separated out the I don't know if you noticed, but today I realized, some of the confusion in that folder. So I did separate out the profiles have a directory, the bus protocol variants have a directory, the TLL stuff is all in the main, or is still all in the work in progress root. And then I just moved everything that I felt was old stuff to attic. And I left the glossary doc, though I haven't looked in there. And I left the figures one because I know that's what you were, you did your figure in recently. But I moved everything else out, including the old versions of the control path, including all of the presentations from Rom and Paul and et cetera, so that people aren't randomly clicking on those documents looking for new information. And then so the goal here is to get all those three things sorted: the TLL, the bus protocol variants, and the profiles, all synchronized together, all making sure that we're good in a reviewable state. And then we can send links to all of those at the same time for review. And then when we're signed off, we can move all of those over to released. So I'm going to try and get the sources and everything into the bus protocol variants and the profiles sections, and at least get them kind of on level as Google Docs. There may need to be some additional discussion next week or in the future about those individual ones in terms of formatting, whether if any other data we think is necessary in those things.
And,
So-
and I need a remind. Sorry, Jeff, I didn't.
Go
cut
ahead.
you off,
Go ahead,
please.
Lily.
Just a reminder for myself. So these profiles are independent document, and we could publish them as appendix to this version, or we can keep them as independent. I don't know if we keep them as independent, we need to do anything. Or it would be like a new document. I don't know if all the signatures that we get for the TLL would kind of transfer to them or not. Does anybody remember any discussion and any guidelines
So
on that?
I think the takeaway from the previous discussion was that we were going to try and classify them more like white papers from an IP perspective, if we could, because it's not a specification. So from the same point of view as the TLL or BOW specification is, it's not dictatorial. These are more like examples on how to do things and build things with the specification. And so again, you're not really, it's a language in order to define a interface between the chiplets. I think we could put them through the IP process and call them specifications if we wanted to, but I don't know what the process is for that. And like I said, most of those documents have not seen silicon. And there's no plans of anybody saying, oh, we are implementing, this profile in silicon, with the exception of Ventana's profile that they published. So there was always a hesitance in like saying, hey, we recommend these profiles, unless somebody wants to step forward and said, oh, I did that, or I'm doing that, or something like that.
So I would say this might be a point of disagreement because, sorry, ultimately I would see these as specifications. Sorry, for the bus variants. And I'm not sure that they need to see silicon up front. Or if I agree that they probably need wider community discussion and collaboration to make sure that the specifications we have today or where they might morph into would be widely accepted in industry. But it seems to me that it would be something we would try to drive towards a specification rather than just being a white paper or suggestion.
Okay. This might be a better discussion for so again, the reason that we didn't do it before was like I was saying, we just authored them kind of in the void.
Right.
And, I am perfectly fine if we want to put them through the IP process at the same time as the other things. I don't know if anybody, I don't know the implications of that, I guess. And so maybe that's something we need to discuss with, Anu and everybody, what they suggest for these things. I don't have a horse in this race, tell you the truth.
Okay, so one question, is there an interest to publish them as appendix to V2? Or there's a preference to publish them as independent spec?
I think they're independent, right? Except that they have to interface to the TLPs.
They're locked to a rev. So they are locked to Rev A, but we're not increasing the rev with this version. So they're not wholly independent, but they are semi-independent.
Okay, so this is good information. So, and is there any interest to synchronize the V2 with publishing the profiles?
So there's an interest to synchronize since we're doing all this formatting and stuff. And so I wanted to, and Jeff mentioned this too, it made sense to make them all look the same. So they all look like one big set of documents that were all made by the same people. And so that's what I'm doing now, right? Just making them look all the same and making sure they all convey the same level of information for a given thing. And they're all named the same. That was part of the problem too. I was looking at the documents. We had things that were named profiles, but you open the document, it said bus protocol variant. And the reason is because we changed the names of things and we didn't change the file names. Bus protocol variant was a late addition to the spec in terms of a naming change. They were all just called different bus profile. They were all profiled something else, and it was too confusing. And so we changed it. And then we changed the headings in the files, the title in the text, but we didn't change the file names. Anyway, just a bunch of little things like that. So I've been renaming things and stuff like that to make them all make sense because people found it confusing.
That definitely makes sense. And from time perspective, we can stage them. We can publish V2 and go through the process, which is review in the subgroup and then review at OCP level. And then we can stage the profiles as they come along.
Well, we can do them all the same. The profiles are much less work than what we're doing with the TLL spec and the sideband, right? It's just it's not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of arguing about it. I think the question here is, so we can meet the same timeline. So I guess what I'm saying. I think the question here is whether we want to treat them as at the same level as we do with the TLL spec. Because we can publish them either way at the same time. It's just how we label them.
And I think, at least in my mind, the bus variants should be at the same level as the TLL, because I don't know how much meaning the TLPs have, right? In terms of a protocol.
It's just like all the other things you agree on. You have to agree on them, and then you move forward.
Yes,
I don't know. I think they affect your hardware a lot less than the bus protocol variants. I agree with that because the bus protocol variants are going to define system level constraints. It may imply I don't know, if you have bus protocol converters and things like that, right? It's going to actually affect a lot more hardware than the IDs that you assign to channels, which are likely, just programmed in registers anyway.
But it's what I think OC could uniquely offer to the market, right? Is how you map these AMBA protocols or any kind of protocol, right, to this to the TLPs, right, in the controller definition.
Yes, absolutely.
So I kind of see that as like pretty important. In terms of the profiles, the chiplet profiles, that I think could be more of a suggestion or white paper, examples. Depending on where we go with that, and if it can be generically specified as, certain classes of chiplets, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think we
Yeah.
can do it like that.
Okay.
Again, I think this is it's like a business group discussion, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's how the market interacts with these things, and personally, I'm good either way.
Yeah. And I think they can be staged over time, right? So I see no reason why you couldn't release the TLL version 2.
Right. Well, I think that's what Helia was saying too. Yeah.
For the profiles or the.
I was just saying I can have them. I think we can have them ready at the same time, right?
Okay.
So again, if we're treating them like just examples and white papers, then why not put them on the wiki at the same time we put the other one on the wiki?
Mhm.
I think there isn't the open question though is whether we need to go through an IP process for those documents.
I think the guideline, I mean, since Jeff suggesting that this would be spec, I think the guideline is that we need to go through at least the review steps are the same. Need to review them in the subgroup and then OCP level. The question that I have, and I take the action item to close, is from legal perspective, what do we need to get from members? And I'll circle
I think,
back.
well, I was about to say part of the problem here, and the reason that we're even doing the sideband as chapters in the TLL is that it doesn't change the legal documents on the TLL, right? You just add whoever's added on here that didn't do the original TLL, they just get that same document, and then they have to sign that document. And then, but if we did a separate document, which is what we were originally doing for the control path, it's a whole new document, which my understanding is more work. So I would guess that if we decided to treat the bus protocol variants as new documents, I don't know. I either means that we have to change the document and add those into the list of documents covered by that same IP spec, or we have our IP agreement, or we have to make new IP agreements for those new documents.
Or could we have an IP agreement on, a specification directory structure, and then we have these different documents in there? Or does it actually have to be tied to each document?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just one document, I think, as it's worded right now, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've read it, years. But so maybe that's something we can discuss with them. But again, I don't know.
Okay, I asked a new ones, and I think and Jeff was on the email thread too, that it is treated as a new document from the review perspective, but I'm gonna ask more specifically from the legal side and the members' contribution. So I'll circle back.
Sorry, one quick question from me. May I know what's the target date for the review for the subgroup and the OCP for this document and the target date for the release? Sorry.
So the target date for the release, the goal was before OCP Summit, which is in October, I want to say.
Yeah.
So we have a while before we're kind of really mandated to release, but we can do it before then. And so I think the goal here right now is to try and get the document done-ish, quote unquote, by next week. And again, I'm trying to merge in the stuff right now, and I'll do some formatting and whatnot. And hopefully we'll be in a pretty good state next week. And then either that same week we'll start calling for reviews, or maybe the following week, depending on how things go.
So we target is to call for review next week.
That's the
And
target, yeah.
yeah. And the target for release is in October.
Yes, well, we might be able to release before then.
Okay.
I thought
I mean,
October was the binding to UCIe, right? That's later. But I thought you merging in the sideband was going to be done in a shorter time frame, which I think is what you're talking about next week, ready for review. Is that a correct understanding or?
I the original discussion was they really wanted something for OCP Summit. And I told them for sure we would have the control path merged in and certified before the OCP Summit. That was the comment. And I said we might be able to get the other stuff done in time. It's more of a stretch goal. So
Oh, yeah, because I think I gave that OCP Summit date and it was associated with the UCIe binding.
okay. I mean,
And
I don't think, depending on how long it takes from your side for that stuff, because I think we're kind of still waiting from Ventana's perspective before we want to replicate work. I think that's really kind of the late bind. That's the I mean, it depends on how plug and play whatever you're doing is.
sure. And I think we're trying to kick off the process of making that contribution, but I'm still waiting to hear back when those are going to get scheduled.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just not, I think at this point, until you've figured out what you need to do from your side
Yeah.
and we've digested it and understand whether we need to do more work on it or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
I don't think I'm comfortable saying whether we'd make October with the UCIe discussion at all.
Yeah, understood.
But conceivably if we had to do it from scratch right now, I think we could do it. I mean, again, I'm going to be out pretty much a month this summer between different vacations and work obligations. So, again, half of me, but again, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of work based on our discussion. It's because we've done the heavy lifting on the transaction side. Like with the bus mappings are all done. We're just doing our existing packet onto a new bus, right? So it probably isn't that much work from a spec point of view, but again, I don't know what I'm not seeing at this point to say for sure. And I'm hoping that your guys saw more than I did in your specifications, and which at least will illustrate my ignorance to a degree, and make that whole process easier. But if I'm looking at it blindly like I am like right now, it doesn't seem like a bunch of spec work.
Agreed. Yeah. So I think your expectation is correct, but yeah, you haven't seen it, so you can't really say for sure, definitively for sure.
Right.
But yeah, my goal is, to get there by summit, the global summit.
And again, we haven't really, I don't know if the document talks about versioning. Let me just look, see if it says something. Oh wait, that's the wrong doc. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so even with us adding additional bindings to something like UCIe, unless we change something pretty significant in our understanding while we're doing that, I think our rev stays the same too. So we're working on Rev A version 2 right now. I think if we added in that extra binding as an appendix, then it would still stay as Rev A version 3. Unless somebody disagrees, because I can't write. I do think, if we end up deciding to do the 256 byte flit format or whatever. And again, I think that's still open whether we really need to do that. Again, if anybody has any feedback about implementations in the market, whether we need that or not, I'd love to hear it. But if we do that, then you do end up changing the TLP format a bit. Like the bits all do the same things, they're just in different orders. But that would be in the appendix itself, right? And it wouldn't change existing hardware on existing mappings. So again, I think it still stays Rev A, even if you're moving bits around. So I don't think any of the other things that refer to themselves as Rev A, et cetera, would change. No, because like I said, it does matter for the bus protocol variants and stuff like that. And in fact, it does matter for the profiles too, because the profiles, because I can see quite a few things if there's a couple of things in the specification that if we change, it kind of breaks assumptions down the line. So some of the things like that David had talked about improving if we did Rev B would be the number of protocol packets per TLP and the number of TLPs per link layer packet. And the other big thing was if we changed we have some reserved packet types and stuff like that, but there were some other packet types we had talked about. And if we ended up changing some of those, then it does change the assumptions also down the line. And if we end up changing any of the other ways we handle, if we ever have to expand the header or anything like that, it changes the assumptions that a lot of those mappings were built under in terms of efficiency, and it would potentially change those mappings as well. But we're not doing any of those things. So as far as I understand, nothing that we have discussed in any of these changes going forward would impact things that would be based on previous hardware. So we're still Rev A all the way down the line. Okay. Does anybody have any other topics to talk about today? I think I've got to all the things that I was thinking of. And unfortunately, it's just document work for myself and Helia.
Yeah, I shared all my opens. Thank you.
Oh, Helia, is there anything that you've changed recently that you want to highlight for the group or discuss? I know you mentioned the address bits, but I think that was a typo, and I just need to fix it.
And then the config and stat, and I realized that I added a diagram that showed how system level interacts with the sideband. I thought having those steps and tie it with a diagram would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good diagram.
I looked at references and added some references. There was some mentions of granule at the TLP packet and link layer packet. I tied them, and then we do not mention the granule structure until few sections down. So I added some reference to those.
Okay.
I restructured some of the tables that we had this local remote bit that we called it bit, but it was more like
Okay.
a
Yeah,
way
I'll
for us.
try and I'll keep an eye on what you do there, because I'm a little worried whether we did those in the other document that I improperly merged. Let me see. Let me look at what you did here.
Yeah, I this time around, I think I added that column for local and remote originally, but this time around I went and looked at it, and it was confusing to me that, oh, is this an actual bit that we transfer? But it is not. It is for us to say that these
Right.
registers are remote or local, or these register in the config are remote
Yeah,
or
we had
local.
talked
So-
about splitting up that table, but we never did. And it was always a discussion about what was the best way to present that.
So I
Trying to-
changed the bit to actual text, that this is remote, this is local.
Got you. Got you.
I think that was, I went over all the mentions of the link, and I followed your convention that you say unidirectional side of the main band link.
Uh-huh.
So whenever I thought that that would be necessary, I just use that phrase that you had.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm trying to, wherever I find any text like that, I'm trying to make sure that the changes mesh with each other. I think everything I saw that you did seemed all nice and beneficial.
Okay, awesome. Let me know again on the diagrams, some of the profiles, what I can do to help.
Okay. I'm gonna try and get them into like all as Google Docs first, all as in source format, and I need to track down the sources for some of them because I may have authored things I just forgot about per Jeff's email. It's very possible. And then once I have them all Google Docs, all source, all in some sort of template, then I'll ask for some eyes on it to make sure that the wording all makes sense between all of them.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Nothing for me.
Okay. Well, I think we can end 15 minutes early here. All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.